You might not know it from reading newspapers or watching the evening news, but in Iraq today there are real signs that the new strategy is working. I'd like to spend just a few moments outlining some of this progress, not to paint an overly rosy scenario, but rather to correct what has become an almost single-minded focus in the Congress on the prospects of defeat. The debate in Congress has an Alice in Wonderland quality about it. We're debating efforts to micromanage a conflict based on what the conditions were 3 months ago, not on what the reality is today. Conditions have changed in Iraq. The Baghdad security plan, the surge, is working far better than even the most optimistic supporter had predicted. The progress is tangible in many key areas, despite the fact that only 40% of the planned forces are in Iraq. Allow me to review some specifics. In Baghdad, the military has reported an increase in real-time actionable intelligence provided to U.S. and Iraqi forces by a newly confident population. Prime Minister Maliki, who prevented U.S. troops from conducting certain Baghdad operations last year, has given the green light to American incursions throughout the city, including Shiite strongholds. All of the Iraqi Army battalions called for under the plan have arrived. Many at or above 75% of their program manning levels. Bomb attacks and murders are down since the surge began. Civilians killed in Baghdad numbered 1,222 in December, 954 in January, and fell to 494 in February. There are reports of Sunni and Shia moving back into neighborhoods from which they had fled constant and horrific violence. Markets that have been subject to horrific car bombings have been turned into pedestrian malls that facilitate commerce and thwart terrorists. Muqtada al-Sadr has fled, possibly to Iran, and has ordered his followers not to oppose the new Baghdad security plan. The Mahdi Army, purportedly dedicated to the expulsion of Americans from Iraq, does not today openly challenge either U.S. or Iraqi forces. American troops are engaged in reconstruction efforts in Sadr City with the cooperation of the local mayor. And in western part of Baghdad, our troops are establishing new outposts in these areas here, that have begun in areas that have been conduits for al-Qaeda in Iraq penetration into the capital city, and have begun to clear these areas of terrorists and insurgents. The net result of all this is that key Shiite leaders are now claiming that the Baghdad security plan was their idea and are taking credit for the increase in security, a development that would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. There is progress outside Baghdad as well. Throughout Anbar province, Sunni sheiks have banded together to fight al-Qaeda in Iraq and are pouring recruits into the police forces. 16 of 26 tribes in that western province are now working against al-Qaeda. With numerous senior al-Qaeda leaders killed or captured, the younger, less experienced leaders are making mistakes, such as targeting respected sheikhs and murdering children that have alienated Sunnis and their leaders. In Ramadi, the town of Ramadi, hundreds of Iraqi police last week conducted a major sweep. In the surrounding areas, all of these surrounding areas, including Haditha and Hit, U.S. and Iraqi are conducting operations against al-Qaeda and insurgents while protecting the population. In Diyala province, U.S. forces expelled al-Qaeda forces from one of their major bases in January, seized major weapons caches, disrupted fighter networks, and cleared cities and villages of al-Qaeda fighters. A U.S. Stryker battalion has reinforced Diyala and is conducting major operations against AQI forces seeking to reconstitute. At the same time, other U.S. forces in Diyala province are acting against rogue Mahdi Army leaders in the province and are holding the Diyala and Tigris rivers to combat reinfiltration into Baghdad. On the belt to the south of Baghdad, al-Qaeda has come under heavy U.S. pressure in recent weeks, with American forces destroying car bomb factories and uncovering major weapons caches in areas such as Yusofia, Latifia, and Salman Park. In Mosul, all the way up here, in Mosul, U.S. and Iraqi forces have killed and captured numerous al-Qaeda operatives since December. In Samarra, American and Iraqi troops have captured al-Qaeda facilitators in north of the city, north of Samarra. American troops have moved off their forward operating base and into the town of Beji, an important hub on the road network. These developments, which have occurred just 1 month into the new strategy and with only a portion of the 5 additional U.S. brigades having yet deployed, suggest that at long last, we have a strategy in Iraq that is succeeding. That's not to say that all is going well in Iraq. Clearly, it's not. Violence continues. The Mahdi army recently launched an attack in Basra, and one of Iraq's vice presidents was gravely wounded in a bomb attack. But we all know the negatives. We read about them every day and see them flash across our television screens hourly. The enemy knows how attention-getting car bombs are, and their strategy reflects this understanding.